Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I kind of have a little story time, but also today I wanted to talk about reading red flags in energy. So, first, let's get this out of the way. My voice is kind of shot, so bear with me. Probably not the best time to do a video, but here we are. So, last night, I run volleyball twice a week. It is something that I've been doing for years. Uh, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy it for myself. But I really enjoy the community that it has built. And I enjoy people finding joy in the sport. People who are kind of late to the game, but they're in it. And there's a really good group of people who regularly come, and I'm happy to facilitate it. But last night at the end, um, we were, I was putting everything away. I usually don't stay late. But when there are these two young kids that they come all the time, they don't ever play. They really just watch everyone play, but I watch them practice outside the court. And it's they want to play really bad. I don't think that they have the confidence or the skill set to join in, especially joining in late. In the beginning, when people are warming up, it's a good time for beginners to come. Toward the end, when people are warmed up, they're, fighting to stay on the court. And if your skill set isn't there and you're coming on cold, it can be pretty intimidating. So at the end, we were putting everything away. My friend, who is a former coach, is watching them and says, "Hey, I want to bump with you, Pepper." And he just starts, working with their confidence. And I was like, cool. I don't want to interrupt that. And I could see the importance in that. And I could see what he was doing and trying to work with these two young kids and build their confidence. So I was like, I'm going to let you do your thing. I will tidy up with what needs to be done. So I take the balls, I go take them to the front, and I kind of walk in to these two young kids having a conversation. And I'm walking up and I can hear one guy go to the other, something about blackouts, partying and blackouts. And I'm like, what a time to come into this conversation? And I'm like, what are we talking about? Hold on one second. And what? And he says, let me just ask you. And he goes, what are some red flags when you're meeting new people? And for me, these are conversations that I just find myself in. And, I'm this 20-year-old, I'm like, in it. I light up when these conversations happen because I'm like, you are speaking my language. And I also, just like my friend who is working with these young kids and building their confidence with the sport, I like working with people and getting them to see things in different ways. Um, so I kind of like, okay, like this is it. So I try to talk to him about, just reading energy in general, because we all do it. When we're meeting people, we're reading energy with our family and friends, um, all the time. And I don't think people fully take in what exactly that they're doing, and they also don't always um, listen to the information that they're getting. They see it, they hear it, but they don't do anything with it. And not to say that have always been perfect with it. I've been guilty of that shit in the past too. So that is kind of, I went through a whole range of things with him, and I kind of wanted to do that with you guys because I saw the importance of it. So one of the first things that I shared with him, I was like, presentation. Presentation matters. Presentation is important. Um, I had to write everything down so I didn't like lose anything. So when we talk about hygiene, um, you know, hygiene's important. It's, one of my friends a long time ago, we were at the pool, and he just said something. I don't know where this came from. But he's like, when I'm dating a girl, I always check the toes. And he's like, not that I have a foot fetish, but it's just like if she takes care of her toes, I know she's taking care of everything else. And I was like, huh, it's a valid point. But hygiene, do they take care of themselves? Do they wear deodorant? Makeup, I think that kind of coincides with hygiene a little bit. There's a lot that makeup shares about a person. Um, in the for I don't want to say just the girls because I think a lot of guys picked up on this too. In the 90s, we paid attention to the girls with those sharp eyebrows and the lip liner and no lipstick. Um, I think one of the things that sometimes we see, and this isn't, I'm not trying to knock anyone, but it's information, right? Um, Sometimes you see the girls who go out almost looking like they're wearing the full eyeliner, from the other night. Like raccoon eyes. Um, let's talk about clothes, and I'm not talking about your clothes need to be expensive or your clothes need to be flashy, but let's talk about what the clothes are presenting themselves. Um, Colors, and that can be also chromotherapy or color therapy. What colors are they predominantly showcasing? And what does that mean? Is that an internal thing? Are they representing something? Are they unconsciously sharing information with you that you could be picking up? And also, when we talk about clothes, I want to talk about fast fashion. When we talk about Sheen or Forever 21, for a lot of us, we know that those clothes are not meant to last. They are meant to wear for one or two occasions and then they start falling apart. You know, in I think like information you can take is that money that is spent on something to wear that isn't going to last and for what purpose, it not saying anything. You can do with that information as you wish, but it's just something to be aware about. Are their clothes fun? Is there a personality that is coming out from the clothes that they're wearing? Um, Also, signs and symbols. And that can even coincide with tattoos. So let's talk about sign and symbols, but when I say signs and symbols, that I want you to think about clothes and tattoos. Um, so tattoos, as we all know, can have very different meanings for different people. They can be symbolic of loved ones that have left. They are, in ancient times, they were symbolic of tribes that you were in, of affiliations with groups of people, um, gang related. I mean, it's all across the board. And now people see, or I don't want to say now, but now a lot of people are consciously aware that tattoos can also symbolize as body art. And some people see their body as a canvas and they just want to have art all over it. And to each their own, there is no knocking it. But it's important to pay attention to what symbols and what they're showcasing, because if someone's putting that on their body, most times they're putting it in places that other people can see, right? um and one of the fascinating things, uh, growing up, my father was a prison guard, and there was one time, and I man, I was probably like 12, 12, 13. And I remember my dad had a document on the dining room table, and it was fascinating to me because it was all about tattoos. This was something that the prison gave out to whatever, or information that he got from the prison, that had all of these different gang signs, what they meant, what groups that they were affiliated to. And for whatever reason, I just remember just like looking at that stuff real hard. And I retained some of that information. And I don't know why, but it was something that was like, it's something to pay attention to. And not that I hang out with those types of people at all, but in public places, when you see those types of tattoos, you're like, huh. For instance, there's like the norteño or sureño dots, right here, or sometimes you see the Nazi thunderbolt tattoos, or there's a whole different things, right? Um, but kind of figure out what information that you're taking in and how it can be applied. Communication. How do they communicate? Are they good at communicating? Are they active listening to when you are talking? And understanding, not just listening, but understanding what it is that you're saying and listening to what your needs are. And it goes both ways. You got to do the same thing, but when we're meeting new people, these are things that you kind of really want to pay attention to. Um, shit. Posture. Oh, I needed to go back to presentation. Posture. How do they carry themselves? Um, and what are they projecting? Um, this is something that I can relate to in high school. There was one, I didn't have the best self esteem in high school. I think when you are a minority, especially if you are in the LGBT community, especially in a predominantly, white racist, area, um, I wasn't even out yet. I think there were so many things going on in my life that I suppressed, and I unconsciously used to walk just, I think my shoulders were slumped, and I used to walk with my head down. And one day, I don't know what happened. I don't know what I think I heard something internally where it was just like, you need to walk straight. And over time, having, hip issues, I learned the importance of posture. But I remember the day that I made the switch, some girl came up to me and she said, "What happened?" And I was all like, "Nothing happened." And she's all, "You're walking up straight with your head high." She's like, "What happened?" Like, and it was something that I wasn't even aware that people were taking in, right? Um, but it's something to pay attention to if people have a lot of confidence, if they don't have a lot of confidence. Are they walking with their chest out, and are they, just something to pay attention to. So communication, how they communicate, do they listen, their tone with how they talk. Are they talking over you? Are they condescending? Is there anger in their tone? Are there hidden things that they are saying, through body language and tone? Um, Another one is, how do they treat others? Um, Waiters and staff. Uh, how do they treat animals? How do they treat kids? Uh, Hold on. Much better. Okay. So how do they treat others? Wait staff, kids, animals. There is something that I've heard multiple times throughout my life, when people say how they treat their mother is how they're going to treat their wife, or how they treat their parents is how they're going to treat you. I don't agree with that statement. And the reason why I don't agree with that statement is that if you are a child that grows up with very dysfunctional parents, abusive parents, that can be a relationship that is strained that might not have anything to do with the person that they choose to love and respect in their life. And that's not something to, I think, judge someone on. It's something to be aware about, and it's something to, if you see that they treat their parents a certain kind of way, it's definitely something to, I would say, dig into and find out why the relationship is the way that it is. I think questions, as long as they're coming from a good place of trying to understand, is acceptable. Someone might say, I don't want to talk about it. And that's fine. Maybe that's not the appropriate time or place to talk about it. But if it is something that is coming up, it is something that is worth talking about. And that is something that can be breached in a way of saying, I understand that this is a difficult subject for you, but for me, there's something that I would like to understand. And that's, it is what it is. um, who are their friends? Um, so do they have a healthy group of people around them? And there are a couple things, there is a saying, because I when I talked to this kid, um, he said something, and it's funny because it is a saying that I remember my grandmother saying. And it was something that my father would repeat that my grandmother would say. And and this kid repeated it word for word. And it was, show me who your friends are, or show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. And you someone's overall energy is going to be accumulative of their inner circle. So if their inner circle is questionable, something to just pay attention about, what is the reason that they keep those questionable people in their life? Um, it can be varying for a wide group of people, um, but something to pay attention to, you know. Um, do they understand boundaries? Do they respect yours? Can they identify and speak of their boundaries? You know, all of those are important. Their energy, are they respectful? When you say something and you say, now is not an appropriate time to talk about this, you know, and they keep bringing it up. Or you say, um, what's another good one? I'm not available at this time, or from this time to this time. And they find ways to just blow up your phone or make it about them. Um, and are they able to identify, what their boundaries are? Can they speak on it? Are do they shut down, or have they done the work to, just work through them? Are they self-aware? My voice is just done. Do they have the ability that they can read the room? I think we've all witnessed before when someone doesn't read the room appropriately. Um, do they know when it is time to leave? Can you read the room and be like, hey, things are kind of going down. Maybe now is the time to make an exit. Or, hey, the party's been fun, but things are kind of going downhill. Like, let's get out before this shit explodes. Or, people are getting angry and we don't need to actually stay in this. Um, are they aware how their words and behaviors affect others? Huge, 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 huge. Um, I don't know how else to say that. It's just huge. Our words and behaviors affect other people. And if you, I always say, you can be unaware to a certain degree, but if this is continuous behavior, you are fully aware of what it is that you're doing, and you know that you can push people around with this type of behavior, manipulation to get what you want, whatever. um Something to pay attention to. Have they worked through their trauma? And to be honest, everyone's going to have different types of trauma. And something that might not seem big to you, um pause, it's important to for everyone to not compare your trauma to somebody else's trauma. Um because the what trauma is that anything that could affect you um negatively or impact you and your way of life is trauma. Like, and what may affect someone else may not affect somebody else. And for someone who has experienced trauma, and I think other people will be able to relate with that, sometimes when you've experienced some heavy stuff, some other things that are still trauma, you might not actively say, oh, that's trauma, because you might be like, well, you're comparing one set of trauma to something else that was much worse for you. Um, so you don't want to downplay it, but that's personal stuff. It's something to pay attention to. And other people, are they able to, have they worked through it? Is it something that if they've never touched on it, that's, something to be concerned about, because trauma is going to hmm, unhealed trauma will come out in different ways, shapes, and forms. All you need is something to trigger it, and you're gonna watch some really uncomfortable stuff. um here's another big one. How do they make you feel when you are meeting someone, or even with people who are already in your life? What is the underlying feeling that they make you feel? Is it uneasy? Excuse me. Is it uneasy? Is it good? Are you scared of consequences? Do you feel respected? Are you constantly walking on eggshells of, what might happen if you do something? Um, those are red flags, I mean, there's a lot of red flags in everything it is that we're talking about, but huge, right? Um, what are they constantly feeding themselves? So this isn't just about nutrition. Um, Nutrition is important, if they are eating McDonald's, um, 7 days out of the week, they're it's something to just be aware about. Again, not just nutrition. It could be music. It could be news. It could be entertainment. Um, Feeding themselves. News. Hmm. Um, I'm not saying one set of news is better than the other. I feel like all 24-hour news programs or channels are not healthy. I don't think humans are meant to take on that amount of information all the time. There is, and also, uh, personally, I prefer printed news because I feel like there's more sometimes hard information there versus when you are talking about news channels. There's a lot of personal opinions, a lot of commentary that is not necessarily needed. Um, and for a lot of people who are sensitive to energy, you are able to pick up on the energy of the person who is sharing that news. And there's a wide range of personalities that are out there. And you are feeding yourselves that information. Um, that could be entertainment as well. Um, I don't think, this is my opinion, people who go super heavy into, serial killer documentaries right now, the Jeffrey Dahmer thing is really big. That's a lot of information. A lot of really heavy I'll just say it, fucked up information. No one needs to hear about how someone is just murdering people, minorities, or how people are getting away with these types of gruesome acts. Um, I don't think it's healthy to take in that information, period. Um, and if they're constantly going into those like unsolved mysteries, murders, serial killers, it's heavy. Um, Music is another one. I think it's interesting, and I think people can do their own self awareness. What music do I listen to regularly, and what does that really say about me? Um, and I want you to think of different genres and kind of like what information do you get about each genre? Like, um, I think there's a time and place for all music. There are times where I like a little Tupac, you know, but some of this new stuff, I think there's one song where like Percocets, something Percocets, and I'm just gonna like, okay, not yeah, you know, um, hunting, entertainment, are, and I'm not saying that I 100% disagree with hunting. I think if you are hunting for food and you are hunting and bringing in your own game and you are utilizing what it is that you are, killing, whatever, to each his own. Um, I think, especially if you want some organic food and you are doing it the right way, fine. But if I question anyone who likes to take a life, and enjoys killing for sport. Um, Especially if you are killing and you are not utilizing the animal, or you are keeping it as like a trophy, like the people who go to the big game hunting in Africa. Is there a need to kill an elephant? No. Is there a need to go and, kill animals that are on the endangered list just because of size or it makes you feel powerful? Questionable. Uh, and then the other one that is reading energy is, what are their coping skills? Um, as far like, are they able to talk things through? How are they at processing? Um, are they what does it look like when they're avoiding? Is it drinking and drugs? Is it, gambling? Is it sex? I mean, it can, and we all have ways that we avoid, and there, as long as, there's a certain level of avoidance, for me, sometimes avoiding can be going to the gym. Like, I just don't want to deal, or walking is another way that I avoid, um, I find ways that I need to release energy, so I go and do something active. Um, we've all met people who, when they want to avoid, they might go drinking, and that's when, um, shit can go down, because once they get to a state of inebriation, they're no longer conscious. Sometimes they go to a place where they black out, where they're no longer consciously. And I think that's what I walked into at the beginning of the conversation with the two kids when they're talking about blackouts. You know, when when someone blacks out, that is their true self that is coming out. Everything it is that they're not dealing with might be coming out. And if you've ever seen anyone in a blackout, what is their state in a blackout? Are they fun? Are they jovial? Are they an asshole? Are they looking to fight people? Are they, emotional and crying and want to talk about like all of their feelings? There's a lot of information that can be taken with each and every one of those things. So while I hit a lot of these topics with the kids, excuse me, kids, 20-year-olds, 23-year-olds, God, those are kids to me now. But, I think this is something that we all, information that we all take in. It's something that we all relate with to a degree. And I hope that when you go out into the world, I hope the information that you start taking in is something that uh, you really fully take in and process. It's important. It's all information that is there, that is being given to you. And I hope that you trust your gut instinct with the information that comes through and test the waters, Um, allow the information to sink in. And periodically, if you keep coming across this person, see what correlations you are making and give yourself permission to say, yo, my intuition was right. So I hope this has been fun. 30-minute video, till next time. Have a good day. Bye.